And channelstv.com has more information for you, and on youtube.com/channelsweb you can watch our videos. You can also watch us on your mobile device via your browser or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. Besides giving you access to news and updates on the go, the Channels TV and Channels 24 apps have an Eyewitness feature that you can use to share pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu, and please follow the instructions. And to some of the stories that you sent in, let's begin with this one from Wari in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Well, showing a man our Eyewitness reporter describes as an officer of the Federal Road Safety Corps lying on the bonnet of a moving car. Although the officer was trying to arrest an erring driver, Eyewitness wants safety to be considered first. And next is this image from Satellite Town in Osun State showing a long lineup of tankers. According to our Eyewitness reporter, they have taken over the only single carriage lane that comes from Alakija to Abule Osun. He laments the trouble residents go through every day on the road. And back in Lagos is our final image from Terry Grillo Street showing this transformer, which our Eyewitness says is yet to be energized 2 weeks after installation. Well, he's lamenting the 7-month blackout residents have had to cope with before the transformer was brought in. He's calling on Ikeja Electric to come to their aid. Thank you for sending these images, and please note that you too can report events as they happen around you. And Senator Ovio Mwagege has been reacting to the recent recommendations of the Federal House of Representatives to have him suspended for 180 legislative days and also prosecuted for alleged culpability in the invasion of the Senate chamber. The senator, who's representing the Delta Central Senatorial District of the state, insists that the lawmakers have no constitutional right to prevent him from representing his people at the Senate, adding that he is only being victimized because of his stanch support for the re-election bid of Mr. President. Senator Ovio Mwagege was speaking to journalists at the airport in Warri, where members of his constituency were on hand to receive him.
You fight corruption. Corruption will always fight back. And they want to use me as a scapegoat to fight Mr. President, to humiliate Mr. President. But they chose the wrong target. The Nigerian courts have spoken. The House of Reps or the Senate, or indeed any legislature, they do not have the power to suspend any sitting senator or member of House of Reps. And these pronouncements, they are pronouncements in rem. They are pronouncements for the benefit of everybody, including you and I. So if they purpose to suspend me, you can rest assured that I will be going to that sitting every day. None of them can stop me.
And over 20 suspected drug peddlers have been intercepted by the Joint Task Force on Illicit Drugs and Other Related Matters at the border between Nigeria and Ghana. Well, this latest effort formed the decision to control the movement of drugs from the shores of Nigeria through Ghanaian borders to other parts of the continent. The exercise, codenamed Operation Eagle, is part of the drive by the European Union to break the illicit drug peddling chain.
Illicit drug trafficking is a global phenomenon. In 2012, a report by the International Narcotics Control Board submits that Nigeria tops the list of countries with the highest trafficking and drug use in West Africa. As agencies of government work hard to crack this nut, peddlers devise other tactics, beating them to it at various seaports, airports, and land borders.
This is a new way. The new way we have just intercepted that they are using to carry drugs.
In response to this situation, the government of Nigeria, European Union, and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime developed a wide-ranging program to address drug-related crime and drug demand reduction in Nigeria. Converged here in Lagos are anti-drug officers. The focal point is the resolve by the Nigerian and Ghanaian governments to break the drug trade across the two borders.
We were able to effectively arrest some people. We were also able to confirm some trends that are intelligence-based operations.
So both parties were fully briefed as part of the planning for this operation and how to best streamline our approach in relation to that.
Over the past 2 months, the operation has yielded results, with the seizure of substantial quantities of cocaine, heroin, and other hard drugs.
Have prerogatives to facilitate the repatriation of proceeds of crime. And they are established also by international conventions and bilateral agreements. So it's a willing of pursuing that avenue, because technically it's always possible to have a success, and it's towards that success that we try to work together between both countries.
If this initiative of the European Union is sustained, no doubt illicit drug peddling and use will be highly reduced in the West African sub-region.
And for more perspective, Glenn Pritchard, Project Coordinator, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, joins us in the studio. Thank you for joining us in the News at 10.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Now, since 2007, the UNODC has reported that Africa appears to be the new haven for drug traffickers. Is that the case?
More than a haven, it's become a transit point in terms of drugs used to transit from South America, particularly cocaine, directly to Europe by the sea. And then after some interdictions by the police back at that time, they started using West Africa and Nigeria as a transit hub to bring it in. And one of the main reasons was that because it was the perceived weak infrastructure and the weak responses in relation to drugs in both Nigeria and West Africa. So the organised crime take advantage of these weaknesses and will exploit them.
Let's take a look at the joint task force set up to tackle illicit drugs. How long has it been going on and how effective?
Okay, the project, this task force started in March. Our first meeting happened in February. We had 2 periods of operational activity, one in May and one in June. We considered it highly effective. The results speak for themselves in terms of the outcomes that were actually achieved. The large amount of heroin, cocaine and cannabis that was seized, and moreover, the intelligence that was gained out of these seizures is very important in terms of future seizures, future work, methods of concealment, methods of how people use to money launder. We even found suspected victims of people trafficking in it. So once again, by looking and concentrating in this way in relation to these illicit activities, and with a broad mind, we can unearth a lot of types of crime. You mentioned a number of drugs, but when we look at which one is a growing concern, especially for Nigeria? In terms of cannabis is considered the most widely used illicit drug in Nigeria, but the growing use of things like methamphetamines, heroin, are always something of great concern. The issue in relation to non-medical use or abuse in relation to pharmaceutical drugs such as the tramadol and codeine is obviously something that's got a lot of publicity recently, and it's something that our office is very concerned in developing a solid response. The difficulty with that is it doesn't fall neatly within law enforcement responses. Cocaine is a banned substance. Law enforcement catch people with it, they can prosecute people. There's proper uses and there needs to be proper access to drugs like tramadol and codeine in this country for people who are suffering pain. So getting that balance right is quite difficult. It's not as straightforward as the approaches in relation to the illicit drugs. How much is the government of Nigeria involved with the European Union and your organisation, especially to developing solutions to put an end to this? Yeah, so the project that's funded by the European Union and implemented by the UNODC commenced in 2013, and it's done in partnership with the government of Nigeria. We've done a lot of work in partnership with all of the government agencies. There's a National Drug Control Master Plan from 2015 to 2019, which demonstrates the coordination in relation to drug responses in Nigeria. There's been a lot of growth as part of the project in relation to these responses. However, it's quite obvious that the government needs to do more in terms of funding these agencies and ministries to properly position them so they can better respond to these issues. In one sentence, do you think this is a battle that can be won? In terms of, we don't use the language battle. We try to not use emotive things. We try to make sure that drug use isn't criminalised and things like that. Look, in terms of getting the best response for Nigeria, yes, there's some ground to be made and we can improve. Yeah, we think there's still some way to go, but we're on the right track.
All right, Glenn Pritchard, Project Coordinator, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Thank you for coming on News at 10.
Thank you again.
To other stories, the Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, has been reacting to the claims that the signing of the Executive Order No. 6 by President Muhammadu Buhari is unconstitutional. At a briefing in Lagos, the minister says the president issued the order in accordance with the power vested in him under Section 5 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. It described the move as the country's most potent tool against corruption.
There are many reasons why Nigeria has been struggling. Regrettably, the most unfortunate cause of the great disparity between Nigeria's wealth and its poverty is endemic corruption. Now the question is this: is the Executive Order No. 6 unconstitutional, as those opposed to it have claimed? The answer is no. It's not unconstitutional. The President has the power under Section 5 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which extends to the execution and maintenance of the Constitution all laws made by the National Assembly, including but not limited to Section 15(5) of the Constitution, to abolish all corrupt practices and abuse of power. Besides, President Buhari is not the first democratically elected president to issue executive orders. Former President Shehu Shagari and Olusegun Obasanjo issued executive orders in their time.
When the News at 10 returns, Altivo Limited launches a new philanthropic platform called Quick Raise, which gives out funds to beneficiaries. Please join us again.